So we still have some folks that are logging in, but I think in the interest of time and keeping everybody sort of engaged, we'll get started. I am very excited about being here today for this webinar. It's our product launch. We call it the new integration of financial DNA for client portals. And I recognize a few folks from actually in Europe and Brazil. So thank you all for traveling so far for this webinar. We're excited, and certainly a lot of people from the United States. So we're excited to be presenting this very interesting product innovation that we've come up with this year. As you know, with COVID, it's certainly been a challenging year for most companies, and we as a company have been internally focused around doing some product innovation. One thing that was a bright spot this year is that with COVID, because most advisors moved to remote type meetings, using financial DNA really helped enable their practice. So we'll be able to weave in that discussion around how that works, and in addition to that, the technology integration as well. So my name is Leon Morales. I'm the managing director here at DNA Behavior, and I'm actually celebrating my 8th anniversary today at DNA Behavior. Today I started with the company 8 years ago. So we're pretty excited about that as well. And I'm excited because we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is behavioral insights. And we thought we would disclose our own financial DNA information. My coworker, Ryan Scott, who will actually be co-presenting with me today. And then we have Lisa Travis, who's also an engagement leader with us. She'll be on the webinar monitoring the chats. And if anything comes in, we'll make sure that we attend to that. But just a little bit of disclosure myself, I'm what we call an initiator. I have a very high risk behavior, as you can see, 82 out of 100. And I tend to be sort of an investor in that high group 5 portfolio. I'm definitely a spender, ambitious goal setter, but I'm also a very rational investor and sort of like a meeting space of a boardroom. That just gives you a little bit of an understanding who I am. And I'll turn it over to Ryan so he can do a quick introduction of himself.
Thanks, Leon. Yeah, my name is Ryan Scott. I'm the CTO of DNA. I handle pretty much all the digital innovation as well as lead the tech and development teams here. And some of my interesting behavioral insights is I'm what we call a reflective thinker. So that is one of the 10 unique styles. We'll kind of go in a little bit deeper into that and how we group advisors and investors a little bit later. My risk profile is pretty cautious, 27 out of 100. I'm a saver and a budgeter. For some advisors, I would be their worst nightmare because I know exactly to the cent what my net worth is. I use a tool called YNAB, and I'm a super user for it. So every single day or every single transaction, I log it and keep up with it pretty regularly. I have a tendency to be impulsive whenever I make my investing. So that's something that an advisor would need to watch out when working with me. And my favorite meeting space would be a coffee shop because I like spaces that are more casual and less formal. That just makes me the most comfortable when discussing with financial advisors. So the real reason why we're here today is we've had just incredible growth at DNA. And what we've done is we've invested everything back into the client experience. So we have a completely new, fresh, easy to use financial DNA that is all digital and online. We've tried to really focus on making the user experience completely seamless for the investor, as well as get as many insights as the firm wants to share with them. So there's self-explanatory videos, scripts, and little tools that the investors can play around with, but those are also available for the advisors. So this really makes behavioral finance accessible and really easy to use for everybody. So without further ado, we would like to introduce the new financial DNA with a video.
This is the new financial DNA. Investors spend 10 minutes to complete the process, which ultimately saves them and their advisors at least 2 hours. It's API enabled and measures more than 200 different behavioral insights, which predict virtually every.
And we have a number of people that are on this video that are from various firms and also use different tools. So what we're going to do is put a poll up onto the screen, and we're going to ask you, which client portal are you currently using? And from this, we'll be able to drive the agenda and a little bit of the discussion to discuss ways of working with the various client portals.
Excellent. Getting good participation here. We've got about half of the group that's voted, but if you could take just a few seconds to answer which client portal that you're using, even if it's a custom portal, there's an option there. Okay, I think we're probably pretty close. Ryan, do you think we can end the polling? All right, great. So you can see here the distribution, few e-money advisors, InvestNet, which is great, Orion, in-house that's built, and then others 21%. And we know we have a few international firms with us as well. So that's great. Thank you very much for that disclosure of that, because that just helps us really understand the audience that we're working with. And we also recognize that because one of the things that we've learned is that it's, even though the configuration with the client portal is very easy, and we'll talk about that today, we also recognize there are some specific firm sort of requirements that you probably would need specific questions answered. So we'll make ourselves available, and Lisa Travis can help sort of reach out if you have any questions or would like to set up an exploratory call with us. We always want to make sure that we're available for any questions that you might have. And if it is a question that sort of serves everybody in the group, please put that into the chat and Lisa will answer that. So because many of you on the call are familiar with Financial DNA, I know a number of you are either clients with us or have explored it with us. I just wanted to give you sort of an understanding of what we do here at DNA Behavior. We have what we call an omni-channel platform, as you can see here represented by these 5 icons. So we work with a number of organizations literally around hiring, onboarding, sort of practice management within a firm, not even related to Financial DNA. We use the same questionnaire as part of that, but it really serves organizations, and we deliver it through either our retail version or through an API-enabled build, or as we're going to be talking today, the client portal integration. The second one, that client-facing, is really more of a traditional advisor-to-client relationship, where you're working with the client, really understanding so what their communication, their investing style, their financial personality really is captured in that second icon. And then many firms use the DNA insights for marketing, because you can really hone in on what is important. We call it quadratic communications. If you're sort of communicating with somebody that's opposite to you, sometimes that wouldn't resonate with them. So you really want to make sure on a marketing perspective that you're able to communicate with them and sort of hit the direct sort of points that'll be important to that person. And then on the planning and investing side of it. So we work with a number of firms from a compliance perspective, using it with a traditional risk profiling sort of solution. A number of firms use it to do that. And we use the ESMA standard of groups 1 through 7, which matches most company investment committees, sort of asset classes. And then there's also a compliance module that's part of that will allow you to see if there's sort of an advisor-client mismatch. Really helps sort of keep the uniformity around compliance. And that also falls into that 5th box there for compliance. We've got a number of tools that help a compliance officer use this to make sure that, you know, from an investing perspective, that the clients are in the right mix of investment portfolio. So those are the 5 icons. And we also have done a lot of research around behavior drives efficiency. So many of the firms that we use with, and we frequently poll them on this subject of how much time it takes. We've really made a lot of improvements on our UX experience, as Ryan was showing you the new Financial DNA experience in that video. So it takes about 10 minutes to complete the questionnaire, which saves an advisor about 2 hours of time, because you hone in on what's important to the client. And you're not sort of fishing around to figure out what's important for the client. You're able to really see it in the information, the guided tips to be able to do that. And then it does require probably 3 minutes for the advisor to brief the information to prepare for the meetings, which can save about 2 hours of time. So there's a a huge efficiency model, part of using financial DNA. And so that we also capture the measurable benefits. And I mentioned that the advisors do save about 2 hours of time working with the client or the client couple. We also know that with using financial data, that it does enhance the whole relationship, builds trust with the client, and it does lead to client referrals. If an advisor or a client, an investor client, has a great experience with an advisor, they're highly likely to give a referral to that advisor. If they have a neutral or a poor experience, they might actually talk badly about the advisor, but they would, in a neutral position, they probably wouldn't give a referral. So that really does speak around the trust. And one thing that we always advocate is that as an advisor, you would potentially share your information with your client. It really builds transparency in that relationship. We also see the average of 150 basis points using financial DNA. It sort of supports the 2015 Vanguard study around behavioral coaching. Sort of an investor has embedded behavioral biases in themselves, and they couldn't deliver the benefit of an increased portfolio without having that advisor. So that's really speaks to that 150 basis points of using behavioral coaching. There's also a 23% increase in revenue, 40% around meeting efficiencies, because you've got the right advisor with the right team working with clients. And then there's a 70% team efficiency, which really relates to more of our business DNA practice management program. But there are huge benefits to using financial DNA and business DNA as part of this solution. So we've done a lot of work this year on sort of the behavioral finance outlook, and we see a number of firms and research sort of institutions writing about this. One of the things that we've always made a practice here at DNA Behavior is making the tools easy to use, because we know that a lot of advisors go through behavioral finance training. You're really studying different biases and different types of techniques to be able to connect with the client. We try to make it so easy that it's integrated into the workflow. So you can see here that in the outlook that behavioral finance has been rated very high, that tech will change the wealth management experience for advisors. So, it's really leading into 2021. Large-scale enterprise implementations with the big four, we worked with a number of them, really around integrating this. And it really is not only just about the integration of the technology, but really around the workflow experience with that advisor client, making it easy for the clients to work with the advisors and making adoption easy. We continue to drive the UX experience, making it easy for people to use, for advisors to learn. And the one thing we always hear is that it's not difficult to use financial DNA once an advisor makes the commitment that they want to use it. And then on the financial DNA, we call it the self-driving client experience. It really does make it easy to use. So after a client completes the questionnaire, we're big advocates that they should receive some information about what they've gone through. And the standard report is what we call a financial behavior report, situated there on that iPad there. It gives you some very simple information for the client. And it really does a lot of the work for the advisor to really educate the client on their behavioral biases, sort of how they like to adopt a plan, and then sort of the 5 radio dials that sort of talk about their financial personality. It's very easy to use. It's an end-to-end behavioral finance experience. We also supplement that with videos, prompts, drill down, and alerts that really help educate the client around their own financial personality. It does a lot of the work for the advisor. And the thing that we'll speak about today is really the customized configuration that's available for a firm. So we've really made it easy for a firm to integrate it, and it's not just a one sort of standard implementation. It's quite easy and very configurable, as Ryan will walk us through sort of in the next few slides. And this is sort of an end user experience, what we call the dashboard at the end after a client completes the questionnaire. So these results really speak for themselves. You can see here some information that's quite visually appealing, but it gives the financial behavior overview about the client. This particular client's a balanced approach to money. He also has a very high risk behavior at 99. So if you're an advisor that's pretty low, sort of, if you score low on your risk, that might be sort of an issue that would be difficult to communicate with this type of a client. But these particular points that are here help you work with a client like this. And this particular client is a strategist, and they require a little bit of information around, so you keep it high level, but really do your homework and make sure that you're giving them options through that experience. So those are all self-disclosed in this dashboard that you as an advisor have access to, but your client does as well.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that really teed up this whole project is we did some in-depth discussions with some of our super users. And as they were bringing on new advisors into their firm, we were watching and listening how they explained financial DNA and how they described some of the challenges that they were working with through clients. Some advisors, if they're new to a firm, they're not familiar with financial DNA, or their clients may ask a question that they don't know the answer to right away. So we teed up this project to completely reinvent financial DNA on the basis that we don't want any answer to not be available on the screen. So everything is super easy and accessible for the advisors. So you can see here, like plainly, it just explains, the client has a 99 risk behavior and risk taking, they're a risk taker and able to see pitfalls. So that's something that's unique for that particular client. The advisor can see additional insights to help with the facilitations on their side, but it really is as simple as this with call outs. The other thing that we've really done is we've always had groups of clients and advisors in our systems. We've always had what we call unique styles, where we will pinpoint which group of individuals the advisor or the client is in, so that you can realize trends with particular clients. As you mentioned at the beginning, I'm a reflective thinker, Leon's an initiator. Those are our unique style groups. So there's 10 of those, and each advisor and investor is also tagged. So an advisor, they quickly can learn the style groups by, having a few friends and families complete profiles, which we recommend at the beginning of the process. If their spouse is a community builder and then they have a client that's a community builder, they can easily be like, yes, you're exactly like my spouse, and they'll kind of know how to communicate to them. So that's one way that we've really made it simple, is making videos and photography for each of the unique styles. And you'll see that repeatedly throughout our presentation, because it really is that simple and it's in our system. Firms are using the unique styles and one of our matching algorithms to match up clients with the right advisor. So in this particular case, you have a client that's the husband is a reflective thinker, similar style to me. So he's going to be very detail oriented, likes facts, figures, and specifics. And then his wife is an engager. So that's going to be someone that has a warm and bubbly personality, like to keep things pretty friendly and visual. So in a way, they have very opposite styles. And we do find that in at least the first marriage of individuals, that opposites do attract. Now, if they're working with an advisor firm, and let's say that they had 3 advisors that were available. So these are new clients that are coming in the door. Typically, a firm would invite the client to complete profiles, figure out what their style was, and then out of the 3 advisors that are available to take on additional clients, they can match the client for the right advisor. So in this case, the advisor in the middle, that facilitator, is going to be the right blend of working with those clients. So if you work at a really small firm, doing the matching in this style isn't going to work in the same case. If you only have 1 advisor or 2 advisors, you can't really do this. But our system also has some modules to help smaller firms adapt the style of the advisor to the client. So we call that flexing. So it can be done either way, but it is kind of cool and interesting in order to see, who would be better working with which advisor. Now, we matched up these particular 2 clients with a facilitator. So that's a new term that we've introduced that you may not be familiar with. We have videos to describe all the different styles. So this is a 1-minute video describing the facilitator style.
Facilitators take a balanced approach to money. They are comfortable with taking some risk if it brings gains, but will steer away from putting all their eggs in one basket. Facilitators will be careful listeners, but expect action at the end of the discussion. In the financial advice process, they will be open to new ideas and suggestions, but will need a logical path to achieve their financial goals. As an example, they need security, assurance, and guidance to reach set goals relatively safely. They need to maintain financial stability in their life and have a pretty low tolerance for losses. Facilitators need time to make decisions. They are motivated to create wealth, but still need continuous assurance that they are making the right decisions. Consider having a range of opinions about particular investment opportunities to ensure everyone is engaged in the process. Facilitators operate with confidence, with established relationships and clear next steps.
So when clients complete the process, that's one of the configurations that you can offer. So whenever somebody completes the profile, or as we call the discovery, it takes about 10 minutes to complete, and the clients can be shown an investor dashboard. So that dashboard that the client receives can be completely customized based on what your firm wants to show and when. So we recommend the videos. They're quick and easy, and they explain it pretty plainly. And then it also just helps kind of a warm and friendly introduction for the advisor to tee up, their discussions with the clients. So that is one of the options of that is on the client portal. So I am going to now do a review of the client portal so that you all can see what it looks like. We are going to be doing our review in the Salesforce client portal in their financial services cloud. So this is something that we took a custom version of the client portal, and then we embedded the Financial DNA discovery and results page into the client portal. So this process I did personally. I am not a developer. I do have some type of technical background because I went to a technical college, and I did take some simple courses, but I'm not a developer by any stretch of the imagination. It took me about 45 minutes to do the end-to-end integration, and we will show you that more specifically in a moment. Essentially here, we built an experience inside of the client portal. There would be a typical experience that a lot of our firms would use. So this would be a larger firm that has multiple advisors that they potentially want to match up the clients with. So the client would then log into this portal. So this is a client that's already logged in, and let's say that they've already associated some accounts inside of their portal. So they've already linked up their existing accounts, and using standard functions within your client portal, you likely have some way of showing account balances. So this would be that. So the client is securely logged into the system, and let's say that they click on this button, Find Advisor Match. You can use whatever words or reasoning behind the client's completing Financial DNA that's completely configurable for you. The important part is if you're familiar with Financial DNA and how it works, typically at this stage we'd be asking the client what their name and email and passwords would be for the system so they can create their account. The account has already been created for them because they're already logged into your client portal. So one of the integration points that we have is the ability to create and seamlessly log in the clients into our system. So you can see here the clients can understand the instructions. This is how to complete the process. There's also a video that they can walk through to understand how that works. They're going to click on Start Survey, and then they're going to answer a few questions. So this is the new experience that we've built this year that's completely available in your client portal. It's also responsive, so regardless of whether the client is completing this on a tablet or a phone, any size device, it's going to look the same, or it's going to look native for that device. So I'm going to choose one most like and one least like out of these questions and just kind of blow through this quickly. And once the client answers a few questions, they're ending up on their dashboard. So this dashboard is completely configurable for your firm, as we've mentioned a few times now. You can co-brand this, so you can put your logo on there. You can also choose which items you want to have on your screen. We have a slide that we'll kind of demonstrate for you of all the different options. So I'll go quickly through this demo, and then we'll revisit the options in a moment. So the clients can learn about their unique style. So this particular client came out with a strategist based on my sequence of answers. This is what a strategist is. The photography we typically use for strategists is going to be a sailboat. Strategists are very goal-oriented people, so they have kind of the end point in mind as they are navigating through life. So that's why we like the sailboating photography for that style. They have the ability of generating and downloading a report that's customized for them. The report can also be co-branded for your firm. And then each step along the way are these cards. So if you see, I'm kind of hovering around the boxes here. So those are cards that can either be customized, turned on and off for your firm. So you can choose which items that you want to share with your clients. This is a financial behavior overview. This is market mood, which we'll discuss in a moment. We have 5 financial behavior insights. So there are 500 insights in total that DNA can measure when a client completes the questionnaire. We've identified these 5 as the most fundamental for a practice to know about the client. So, you know, we would never show all 500 to a person, but these are the 5 that we think are the top 5 that an advisor and their client should review. It goes into things like, is the client a saver or a spender? What the risk behavior is? How do they approach goals? How impulsive are they going to be or emotionally intelligent as the market changes? So if you recall at the very beginning of this discussion, I said that I have a tendency to be impulsive whenever I invest. My score is very low on this particular factor, so that's something an advisor would find. Performance keys, so these show kind of how the client operates and some things that they're strong or not so strong at. Again, this is something that you can configure, turn on or off. And we also have the behavioral biases. So each person has 2 out of the 16 behavioral biases that are associated with them. There's also videos where individuals can learn about the biases and how they approach financial decisions. So that is the dashboard that's available for clients. A cool part of this integration is that it's a multi-part integration. So we allow the firm to actually set what the unique identifier is for the client, which would be a long, secure, encrypted, set of numbers and letters, which would be unique to that person. Your firm knows what that, you would save that key in your system so that you would be able to retrieve data about that client securely later. In this case, since I've already completed the profile, you can see that there's some key information that I was showing you on the dashboard that is now saved inside the database so that the firm could use later on. You could build a portfolio based on what the group is for this particular client. This is going to be an aggressive client. They're going to really, from a risk perspective, they're going to really appreciate or really need a aggressive portfolio. So high on equities and, maybe some foreign equity as well, to match their risk appetite. Unique style strategist, their behavioral biases that we saw on the screen, as well as links so that if the client wants to click and go automatically back to the results dashboard, they can. So if they ever want to revisit it, they certainly don't have to log into any DNA account. This is all available to them in the client portal. So that kind of gives you an end-to-end integration. We have documentation and guides on how to do all this, as well as we'll discuss in a moment how for the next few months, we're going to be hand-holding firms through this process. It's a DIY integration because it's quite simple for your firm to do yourself, but we are working with specific clients that have pre-signed up and selected slots, and we're hand-holding them through that process to make sure that it's seamless for them, easy, and something they can take advantage of rather quickly. So we will go back to the slides now, and we can continue to discuss some of those configurations that are available and what some firms are uniquely interested in. So on the screen, I have all the configurations that are available. So starting on the left-hand side, a firm has the ability of selecting their logo. They also can choose which insights that they would like to provide their clients. So they can show if they want the unique style, the videos, the behavioral biases for a particular person. So all these things can be turned on and off, and some of them can also be configured independently. So the 5 scores, those can all be turned on and off. Coming soon, we have the ability of actually changing all the default colors inside the experience so that it can be completely branded based on your company's branding. That's something that we're really excited about, and we've worked with a few enterprise customers on. The performance keys, as I was mentioning a moment ago, as well as a unique style. So these are all the configurations that your firm can choose to turn on or off, and kind of how they would sit on that screen. So this is a plug and play integration. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see the code that I actually used in order to implement the questionnaire and the results screen inside your systems. So the actual integration of the questionnaire is very simple. The one thing that we have documented very well is the process of identifying the clients uniquely, and as well as figuring out that process of seamlessly logging them into our systems and creating those accounts. So that there's a connection and interface between the two systems to make sure that those get created correctly, stored in your system so that you can review results later on. And now I'll hand it back over to Leon, who will discuss some of the implementation spots that we have available and next steps.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And Ryan, there were a couple questions in chat. They're a little more technical. I don't know if you want to cover those after I finish this, which we can. One of them is on language translation, which I know would probably come up, and I know we can probably provide an answer. But for those of you, I just wanted to do a recap. As Ryan was pointing out or illustrating, one of the challenges we always have known is that, advisor tech adoption is they have so many things going on in their daily work that adding another application can be challenging. That's why we spent the year really understanding the best way to integrate the solution. As Ryan mentioned, this is very much of a plug and play option. So your advisors don't have to learn new tech. They basically just need to know there's a button here and it can actually, sort of meets the privacy standards, and they can be, sort of using it with meetings and with client family meetings, however they want to use sort of the application. They don't have a lot of learning there. It's actually a pretty easy system to learn. That's one of the things that we often get told is that for an advisor to learn this, and our recommendation is always to use it with family and friends first, because you know them so well. It literally teaches the advisor how to use it. So it's just a way to sort of participate and get engaged pretty quickly. And also role play, within the firm sometimes really helps for that community adoption. So the next step options, as Ryan mentioned, we do have our implementation spots for December and January starting to get booked. And then for February, we expect that there will be general availability. And once there's sort of an understanding if this is something that you're interested in, we have a great way to kick the tires, we call it, is to try Financial DNA in our retail version, which we make it available really to start even as early as today. And that gets the advisor or the firm to really study it and see how it can be used. It wouldn't be integrated right from the start, but it's pretty easy, as Ryan was mentioning. We just schedule time to work with your sort of more technical folks to be able to talk about how simple the integration is. And we find doing an exploratory call is a great way because there are specific firm questions that come up, and we're always happy to host an exploratory call in December or January, exclusive of sort of the implementation of that. We're always happy to do that. And you can always get started just by going to financialdna.com, and there's a trial button there to actually go through that. We have a code for this month free, which will literally give you this month free for December if you're interested in starting today. But if you prefer to have that exploratory call with us, we're always happy to host that. Try to make ourselves available. Lisa Travis on our call is very responsive, and I'll get on a call if it is something that we need to get a second conversation. And then Ryan, typically when it's getting ready for an implementation, he'll spend time talking about some of the configuration options. With that, Ryan, I know there were a couple of chats in there. Is that something that we want to cover on the call, or are they more specific?
Yeah, there's several really good questions that we can go ahead and we'll answer on the call. And then we are also going to reach out. There are some individuals that are asking some pretty detailed questions that are firm specific. Our team, Lisa specifically, is going to be reaching out directly to you, and we'll just make sure that we get any of those questions answered for you. One really good question is, Is this only available to be integrated into third-party apps such as Salesforce, or it can be customized within DNA Behavior's portal or the back office? That is a great question. So what we've done is we've actually built this so it's as flexible as possible. So I chose to do my demo from Salesforce just because they have an out-of-the-box client portal. You can use literally any client portal. There was a number of people that answered the question that I think the most popular client portal that was chosen out of the list of the polls was built in-house or other. And the good point is for that is that our client portal solution will work for anything. You can in fact install it into just a website. And we have a firm that's doing that as well. So there's a lot of really cool options with this. We built it very flexible. So one thing that I like to emphasize is I did do that in Salesforce, but I did not do that with a Salesforce app or anything that we've customized for Salesforce. So that was just the way that we chose to present it. And the same experience could be delivered in eMoney or InvestNet, Orion, any of the other solutions that are out there. Another really good question that we had was about language. So by, as far as our initial launch is concerned, this is primarily available in English. There's a significant amount of, collateral and content that we've generated and curated for this experience. What we've done is we know that there are going to be some international firms that are very interested in this. We've talked to several already. What we've done is we built all this with multi-language in mind. So everything can be transitioned to additional languages, French, Canadian, Dutch, Portuguese, with the way that we've developed this. But we would just want to work on that with a specific firm initiative. So if you have, if your firm is interested in this, we've definitely built it so that it's super flexible. So we can have a discussion and figure out, what your needs are and how we can customize it for you. Let's see, I'm going to scroll through. We've gotten a lot of engagement. This is some really good questions. Very good. So there's some that are more firm specific that I just mentioned. So we will get everybody those answers one-on-one. And without further ado, I'll hand it back over to Leon to close it out.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And one question that did come up is, will you get a copy of the recording and the presentation? And the answer is yes. You will get sent the recording when it finishes, and if you're registered for the webinar, it'll automatically send you that recording. And then Lisa Travis will follow up with the actual presentation, the PowerPoint, along with, or the PDF. And then, Ryan, are we comfortable to include that link for the demo as well, or do we just schedule those?
Yep. Yeah, that's a good idea. So the demo that I did on my the screen with the click-through demo, we can include that as well. That would be good if anybody else wants to kind of zero in on that experience.
All right, very good. And if there are no other questions, I think Lisa's done a great job of understanding and sort of commitments back to folks. But if you have a question, please direct that to Lisa or to me. I'm happy to field any questions. We want to make this interactive. We really appreciate your time today as we get ready for the holidays. We're pretty excited about our 2021 plan, and we certainly hope all of you will join us on that journey. So with that, I'll give you back some extra time in your day. And Ryan, on behalf of Ryan, Lisa, and I, we really appreciate your involvement today and great questions.